You said also the viewpoint that women are more attractive at 20 than 40. So what was your thing there?
I mean, kind of, you asked earlier about if I thought I looked better now than I did at 20. And
Happens is people often, they think that you're attacking them based on their situation.
Yeah.
When you're not really attacking them based on their situation, you're just explaining the distinction in risk assessment. You're like, look, if I'm going to advise somebody, if I were to tell a man, right, is it a good idea in 2024 to get together with a single mom? If another choice was viable, the answer is definitely no. It is definitely no, you shouldn't.
some of the turnout situations could still be the same if it was.
They're not,
just
though. When it's a single father at home, the problems and the outcomes are significantly better than when it's with a single mother at home.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to Exhausted Truth, where I am your host, and I'm very exhausted from always having to tell the damn truth. But hey, someone's got to do it. All right, y'all. Listen, again, I say this quite a bit, but if you've never seen the videos, no scripts, no prep. I just go right into it. Some of you guys will say, yeah, we can tell. Chill the fuck out. All right. Today on the panel for the Whatever Podcast, we have, this is not the Whatever Podcast, but this is what we're reacting to, just to make that clear, is the age-old question about, does dating a single mom come with baggage? And if so, can that baggage be positive? Can it come in the form of good experience? Or is it just baggage that's most likely always going to weigh down the man who dares to take that leap of faith in the first place? Anyway, y'all ready for this? Let's get to it.
Yeah, so you said, moving on, you disagree on the view Brian and most others have on single moms. So I guess what is the position that you think I or others have on this?
Well, it might not necessarily be your point of view. Sorry, thank you. It's just point of views I've heard before on this podcast or other podcasts about how generally children of single mothers turn out to be the bad.
I don't care if this bitch talking right now is a single mother or whatever. You see this fucking thing coming after you? If you have the nerve to hit on a woman that's got this going on, what are you asking for? Answer me that one. What the hell what are you looking for? Now I know there's some biker dudes out there that might think this is a keeper right here, but I guess everyone's got their flavor.
That's true.
I get that, and I don't disagree with like the statistics of it and all. I guess where I disagree is putting solely the blame on the fact that it's a single mother and not necessarily a single parent in general, because some of the turnout situations could still be the same if it was.
They're not, though. When it's a single father at home, the problems and the outcomes are significantly better than when it's with a single mother at home. That's why it's viewed this way with so much social stigma. So the idea is not to say that women who are single, many times women can become single through no fault of their own. Perhaps they're in an actual abusive relationship. Perhaps their husband dies. Perhaps, there's any number of different situations which can cause it. But if you were looking to advise, if let's say you had an entire pool of men to advise, then you were to look at the numbers and you go, okay, look, the amount of shit that you're going to put up with marrying a single mom versus not marrying a single mom is massive.
Mm-hmm.
You're putting up with a lot more shit, a lot more trouble. Now you got exes involved. You got all of this involved, right?
Babies.
It's
involved.
probably better if you have viable options external to a single mom to take those. Now, there's many situations where marrying a single mother works out fine. Dating single moms works out fine. There was no problem with that. But it's not often, right? Those are much smaller in the percentage of the pool versus the amount of people who end up with catastrophic situations, because now they have to not only deal with you, but they have to deal with children that are not theirs, and then the fathers of those children, the extended families of those fathers of those children who all want to be involved. That's where the viewpoint is. It's like, so if you were going to advise your son, if you had all of that data and there was options in front of him, and so option one is, really like this girl, but you know, she has children from another man, but I also really like this girl and she doesn't, right? It seems pretty clear that you would advise him, hey, maybe you should think, if that option's available to you, about going with that, because there's less potential for damage to you if you're looking for the best for your own kids, right? Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I
Wait,
don't
but
disagree
before
with that at
I
any-
have you answer that,
Hold up. Now, some people I think are going to judge Andrew because, if I'm not mistaken, he ended up hooking up, shacking up with the single mother, right? So you could take this. You could take this both ways. You can call him a hypocrite, or you could say, hey, he might know what he's talking about, considering he's stepped into that territory himself. So, but if you've ever dated a single mom, you know that when you're dating, you're trying to get to know somebody. But she is splitting her time between work, her kid or kids, and you and herself. It could be a lot, and you cannot blame a man for not just not wanting that, but completely avoiding it in the first place, right? And have you ever met a man that was raised by just his mother? It's not always a bad turnout, but a lot of times it doesn't go well. They usually end up being very emotional, kind of like, you know, a woman. So it's tough. Even a single, even a daughter that's raised by a single mom, it's not the same.
I actually didn't hear you actually raise this from the context of dating. Now, perhaps it's your position. The only thing I heard was just you've heard people say that when it comes to raising children, the outcomes of the children when raised in a single mother household as compared to single father household. But this is also just because Andrew's now in the realm of dating, right?
Yeah.
Are you also have qualms there when it comes to, hey, it's suboptimal to date single moms as opposed to childless women?
Oh, no, definitely not. Like,
Oh, okay.
I definitely
So
no,
Andrew, I think her position is simply just the whole single moms raising children, the outcomes for the children as compared to the single fathers, not really a dating. I don't think she has qualms on the dating front.
They're much worse across the board.
Okay.
So they're much worse in criminality, and here's why. I'll tell you why this is the case. It's because of the external component of stepdad. So stepfathers are far more likely to abuse the kids. Stepdads are far more likely to have a revolving door, right? Or boyfriends, much more likely to have a revolving door. Single dads, that doesn't work that way, right? So if a single dad has another woman who enters in the kid's life, they have a lot more power to do something about any type of problem which may occur, right? Not going to have the same dependency issues. They're not going to have the same revolving door. And so the chance of abuse goes significantly down. So for instance, if I was single tomorrow and I was dating a woman and I saw some kind of abusive tenants, right? Very easy for me to be like, get the fuck out of here, lunatic. And what is she going to do about it? Nothing. But the other way might not be so easy, right? So this is why you generally have better outcomes with single fathers, is because they can actually do something when it comes to this idea of abuse, and they are far more likely than the biological dad to abuse kids, like overwhelmingly. Not all of them do it. In fact, probably most of them don't do it. I'm just saying that statistically, they're more likely to. So that's why the outcomes tend to be better with single fathers than single mothers.
And isn't there data that per capita looking at children raised by single fathers as compared to single mothers, for example, incidents of criminality?
Yeah, I brought that up. But that's why the incidences of criminality.
He's like, "Are you listening, motherfucker?"
Being single is better for my child. Is it like?
What?
No, it'd be
Well, no,
worse.
if you
I do
say-
have to move it on, but if you can
So,
make your point clear.
the chances are, and this is just raw facts. These are just raw facts,
Yeah.
okay? The chances of you introducing a new man into your child's life are likely going to be more detrimental than if you were in a relationship with the child's biological father for the course. Now, that doesn't mean that that's going to be true. I'm just talking about risk factors.
Yeah.
The risk factors are higher, that's all.
So yeah, so I'm saying, like, from my point of view, I've been single since I've been single.
Mm-hmm.
So from your what you're explaining, that means that like my outcome would be slightly
It's
better
still
because I'm not having that
higher.
She didn't even want to say how long she's been single. It's been that goddamn long. And second of all, no. We're literally saying that 2-parent households are the best option, especially if they can get along. If they can't get along, some people will say it's still better. I disagree. If 2 parents are in the same 2-parent household and they can't get along and they're fighting and arguing all the time, that's not better. I don't give a fuck. And because I've been there, I know how that one is. But 2 parents that can work together, even remotely, way better than single parent. But if you are going to do a single parent, single fathers usually have a much better turnout if the father is going to be present and actually take it, being on top of his shit. Even if a mom is on top of her shit, dad's on top of his shit, single parent dad usually better turnout for boy and girl.
Rating door
The outcome
of-
the outcome may be slightly better because you don't have other men coming in. However, it's still going to be suboptimal as to if you had probably stayed with the father. And so that's why, like you said, you're a Christian. Churches will often recommend, look, there's no abuse, there's no drugs, there's no stuff like that. You guys are just having a hard time reconciling some issues. You should probably still stay together to make sure that the kids have the best shot at life. Because after they're out the door, then you can do something different. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But that's often why even non-religious counselors will often advise this.
Okay. You said also the viewpoint that women are more attractive at 20 than 40. So what was your thing there?
I mean, kind of, you asked earlier about if I thought I looked better now than I did at 20. And I understand the whole man point of view about like how they look, how when we're younger we look more fertile and we are more, fertile looking as young women. Personally, I believe that women look slightly better. Even men, we look better in that middle of age, somewhere between.
No, bitch. First of all, if you look better now than you did when you were younger, I hate to see what this lady looked like when she was younger. Second of all, no. Men start to look better because they become more distinguished, right? They start to grow into their facial structure. They start to, they start to become more masculine looking. A lot of them, I don't know about nowadays. You got some soy boys, but men grow beards. You know what I mean? Mustaches and shit. So you start to become more distinguished, and it just seems to be more attractive to women.
30
40?
and 40, when we have
Better
more
than when you was
matured
20?
features, we slightly don't look so babyish in our faces, not as young.
There's exceptions though. There's exceptions. There's I'm not gonna lie. There's a few celebrity females that I was like, damn, she look better now than she did then. But that is a rarity. It is not this lady's case, I'm
And-
sure.
And I just think that we look slightly better, slightly
Well,
older.
I think as women age, definitely their taste age when it comes to
Oh, for
to
sure.
men.
100%.
Not confident that is the case the other way around. That
like
that
the
women,
surprise to
or
her.
I'm
Like,
sorry,
she's
that
like, oh,
men aren't still attracted
fuck.
to younger women, because all the data that I've seen most definitely shows that they are. Whereas women, it seems that their tastes slightly deviate. Though they still, from a beauty standard point, still go, okay, 25-year-old men are still better looking on average
The
than
older we get,
45-year-old
the
men.
men age like fine wine. Like,
Well, I think the tastes change because of the valuation of different things. They just value different things.
Yeah.
Men at 45 are still looking at women as vessels and carriers of children. That's what the attraction comes from. So youth is associated with that. Of course, that's why you'd be attracted to younger women.
yep.
So, I mean, it's not even really that difficult to understand.
It's not, yeah. I don't disagree
Do you
with
have
that
the
at all.
study though?
Actually, we can bring
No,
it
I
up.
know.
You can go to, if you want
I mean,
data,
I think it's
you
a
can actually go to my-
societal understanding
a
of
really
it.
good place to source a lot of this data, especially on the abuse in the home, is people often, they think that you're attacking them based on their situation. When you're not really attacking them based on their situation, you're just explaining the distinction in risk assessment. You're like, look, if I'm going to advise somebody, if I were to tell a man, right, is it a good idea in 2024 to get together with a single mom if another choice was viable? The answer is definitely no. It is definitely no, you shouldn't. Okay?
I would agree with that.
And what happens is, because they're in the situation where they themselves are a single mom, they see that as an attack. But it's not an attack. It's just showing, look, this is what is true. It's not the case that it may be true in your situation or anybody's situation. But there is like a statistic here that we can look to.
All right, that's the video. Listen, first of all, I skipped a little bit towards the end because I don't really care to hear about Andrew Wilson's wife arguing feminist because, quite frankly, as much as like I'm not saying she doesn't speak, she doesn't have good facts a lot of times, right? And I've seen her put a lot of these women in their place, but she's got problems of her own, right? She came with baggage of her own, and sometimes that when they speak, it's almost as if they don't have that the same shit that they're telling people not to do. It's almost like they didn't do that themselves, right? And then they have a weird thing where, I don't even think the dude does any of washes his drawers. I don't think he does dishes. I don't think he cooks for himself. I don't think he even puts gas in his own car. And if that's their thing and you're like, dude, what's the problem with that? Then that's fine. That's on you. But again, rather you're the breadwinner or not, man, I don't know. You think you still want to do some things to take care of yourself and be a little independent. But that's neither here nor there. The fact of the matter is, the point of this video is, how do you guys feel about dating single moms, right? Because you got a lot of single moms that get offended when you don't want to deal with that shit. And then I think you got some single moms that understand why you wouldn't want to deal with that shit, But as far as men go, I think statistically we know that it most of the time isn't going to work out. I mean, it's hard to make things work out when you don't have kids in the mix, right? Most people can't make a thing work when there's no kids in the mix. How do you expect them to make things work when there are kids in the mix and they're someone else's kids? They're not even his kids. And honestly, until you can get to know each other and come up with some type of be able to, develop a team together and then figure out what your parenting values and your strategies would be. I don't know, if you can't agree on parenting, you shouldn't have kids in general. But this is a woman already coming into the relationship with the kid. So it's how do you work out those different parenting styles and that dynamic, and then you got to work it out possibly with the baby dad too, the father of the kid. So it's that's a lot. I wouldn't want to deal with it, but hey man, if you're doing it or you did it, that is up to you and good luck with that. But I will say, I do find it ironic that he's, like I said, they talk about the shit, but sometimes it's so specific to the situation again. But some people say, yeah, but that's why they're telling you, how it works out. And that's fair. That could be it too. But you could also look at it, it's a bit hypocritical. Anyway, that's my time, y'all. And until next time, peace out.